brave souls that have come out on a morning like this. Thank you. I think most of you know what we're doing here today, so I won't go into a lengthy thing about how we're supporting some of these organizations. So thrilled to have the Gleaners and Shepherd Center here. And many of us know, because of social concerns group, most of us here know what this is all about, but to learn about some of these organizations that our church is supporting and some volunteer opportunities maybe, because it might tug at your heart, you want to be involved, and it also sound like something really fun to do. So I'd like to introduce Jim and Jane Van Tynen with Kalamazoo Valley Gleaners, and then later we'll be having Mary Beth Star Hat, thank you, with the Shepherd Center. So I'll let you take it from there since we're starting late.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity for you to welcome us and let us share about Kalamazoo Valley Gleaners. We are about a 3.5-year-old nonprofit. James passed around a sign-up sheet if you're willing to share your email with us. We'd love to put you on our mailing list, and if you'd rather not, we'll still be friends. That's okay. We'd love to send you our newsletters. It's just a brief snapshot of what's happening every month. It's about 4 years ago that I retired, and the other fellow told me I should look at this once in a while, I guess, so they know who I am. Everybody out there in the cyber world. About 4 years ago, I retired, and I found that I had a little too much time on my hands. And I said a prayer, dear Lord, put somebody or something in my path that I can serve you. A few days later, I picked up a copy of the Calvin College Alumni Magazine, where Jane and I started our college education, and read about some other folks that were operating a Gleaner up in Grand Rapids, and they were Calvin alumni. And what they do is collect cosmetically imperfect vegetables, produce from area farmers, process it, dehydrate it, for distribution to malnourished people around the world. I said, Jane, check this out. We did. We went up and visited. We volunteered there. Eventually, we learned that there are 10 such organizations in Canada. We went to Ontario and visited much larger Gleaner operations there. We were so inspired, we shared it with some friends. We formed a nonprofit, shared it with some more friends, retired businessmen that we thought would be helpful to us, and we were off. To hit the highlights, what we will do is we will collect from area farmers vegetables, and when I'm talking about collecting vegetables, I mean by the truckload. And we've got a little video that hopefully we'll be able to show that tells about our process. But the idea is to collect this vegetable and process it, dehydrate it, and package it so it's got a very extended shelf life, and ship it to malnourished people in Central America, Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe. We will eventually, when we get up to full capacity, and we just started, it's taken us almost 4 years to get to this point. Dan's going to tell you a little bit more about that, but we will be processing approximately, we'll have the capability to process 3 million pounds of produce annually. That means that we'll process something like 15 to 20 million servings per year. Means that we'll fill a shipping container, a semi, hopefully about once a month. And that will be distributed, like I said, through a relief agency partner. And so we're just getting started. We just opened our doors. It's taken a while to renovate a building. The biggest thing that we had to do was to find a place to do this, and Jane's going to share a little bit about that with you.
Okay. Kalamazoo Valley Gleaners has been God's done work from the very beginning. We knew that because we knew God's heart was spreading it to us, but we really found that out when every door opened for us. And so in the fall of 2021, we formed a 501c3, and then we started building Kalamazoo Valley Gleaners as an organization. But for a whole year, we could not find a building. We searched and searched, and there were no buildings. Finally, 5541 King Highway came up for sale. It's a 23,000 square foot building. So we went in to speak to the owner, and the owner said, I'm all about feeding the hungry. And he started to cry. And he said, I became a Christian 2 years ago, and I just got married recently. I'm going to bring that price of that building down from $858,000 down to $800,000. and I'll sell it to you on favorable terms. Well, we knew right away, got in the door. So we signed on the dotted line. We had no idea how we were going to pay for it. Which bank is going to say, yes, I'll loan you money for a nonprofit that's only been in business a short time? We didn't think about that. We just signed on the dotted line. But as God would have it, the next week, we met with a couple we had never met with before. We didn't even know who they were, but through one person and another, we met with Mike and Melanie Balkema. Best Way Disposal, you know the Balkema family at all? Anyway, we sat down at Mike's table, and his wife was with him, and a friend was there too, and we just sat with him and just shared our mission to feed the hungry. And they listened carefully, and a week later, they came over to see the building with the Balkema brothers. And shortly after that, Mike and Jim had a phone conversation, and Mike said, Jim, what are you looking for from me? And Jim said, Mike, it'd really be great if you'd buy that building for us. And they said, you know what? We were thinking the same thing. So they bought this $800,000 building for our exclusive use, and we pay this much rent. So what a God moment, but everything has been a God moment. Everything has been a miracle. And so I keep a journal, and every 2 days I write in the journal. So I've captured the whole God story. But since then, I have to tell you, God sent all the right people, lots of them. God sent generous donors. God sent skilled workers to renovate that building, because in 1 year, that building is like brand new. And that building originally was Parchment Collision, just an old warehouse, really bad. And now you go in and it's brand new in 1 year. And now we're up and we're operational, and we can take up to 50 volunteers a morning. We just work in the mornings from 8:30 to 12. So there's a lot of joyful people working in that building. So turn it back to you.
I kind of skipped over a couple things. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so
Let's see. First, we'll share screen.
this is from News Channel 3 came out,
Maybe.
and they were there a year and a half ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah, you better
They saw the
touch.
building, they
Your
could see the
Windows
vision, they
2 times.
saw the dehydrator in the
Windows
building,
Media Player.
$250,000 dehydrator. They could see that, and so they followed our story, and once we were operational, they came out at the stadium.
Nice.
We think they're very, so I think, Tim, how about just right here, just click play,
No, there you go. Hold on, Jane.
okay.
Yeah.
Your screen sharing, but how do I hit the our video? Well, they're getting that going. We're neighbors of Jim and Jane.
Yeah.
And so we've been alongside them with this journey and seeing how things went from a warehouse that was housing.
There it is. That's us. Double click it.
There we go.
Okay, there.
Got it. Thank you. Fortunately, the success of this organization will not depend on my technique. But we do spend a lot of time in prayer about it. I glossed over a couple of things. During this whole process, we've learned quite a bit about world hunger. And, we've all heard the stories, right? But 750 million people around this world go hungry. And somewhere around 21 to 25,000 people on this planet die of starvation or malnutrition daily, 10,000 of which are children. Throw into that the fact that approximately, I've heard anywhere from 25 to 40. One farmer even told me it could be as much as 50% of the produce grown in North America never makes it to the table. In fact, just the other day, our potato farmer partner, Harv Lee from Martin, I said, Harv, I'm going around doing this kind of thing. I'm telling people over and over again, it's like up to 40% is wasted. I said, are you sure we're not exaggerating that? It's just kind of hard to put my arms around that. He said, I'll tell you, it is not exaggerating. He said the asparagus is probably more like 50% because the grower, the retailers, Meyer, Harding, et cetera, insist on having asparagus that is all the very same length. Somebody said that in this country, I'm sure we're all guilty of it. We shop with our eyes. The potatoes that we're processing are perfectly nutritious. The fellow up in Susmanos, Gleaners in Grand Rapids, is a doctor of nutrition. And it says, the ugly potatoes, as Jessica called it. So I'm on a first name basis with Jessica. We've been out there, our Gleaners, like on a few different occasions. We love her publicity, but he said it's true. He said, last fall before we opened, there was a potato farmer. He said to Harv, is that Gleaner place open yet? We're getting close. He said, that's a pity. He says, I know in West Michigan of 100 truckloads of potatoes that will go to the landfill pretty soon. That's 4 million. That's 4 million pounds just in West Michigan in one season. So anyway, like Jane said, the building had a ton of renovation that had to be done, and we had a general contractor that volunteered his time. Dan Shepard's of a dam in Cruisinga. Yeah, Jane's going to pass around some of the product. We forgot to take some of ours, but ours will be identical to this. These are from Niagara Christian Gleaners. And the key about Niagara is they have met us every step of the way. So we've had a model to follow with all of this. So we've had to do extensive renovations to the building, the electrical, the mechanical, the plumbing, the painting, the flooring, windows, doors, everything. That took roughly a year, amazingly. And there were something like 70 contractors and vendors that contributed massive amounts of that for free. So now we're open and we're looking for volunteers. Clearly, we've raised, I think, about $2 million of contributions, better part of $1 million of gift and kind contributions. But our operating expenses are going to be about $250,000, $300,000 a year. So it's we've got a board that's formed. We are a nonprofit. We hired a young lady to be our general manager. She's been at it now. She'll start her 5th week tomorrow. And she is a crackerjack. Kristen Broussais, she's a former school teacher. She's got a master's in theology, and of all things, missiology, which I'd never heard of before. It's about missions. And she's loving what she's doing, and we're enjoying it. I wish I could explain to you, hopefully you could catch it a little bit there, the spirit in our building with the volunteers. The people are loving what they're doing, and we've got a number of them that are showing up 2-3 times a week. Even a couple of them, John Buttery there, he's there at least 4, maybe 5 days a week. I'm trying to think what else, Jane.
I'd like to say
that
if you look right over there, it says kalamazooGleaners.org. That's our website. And you scroll down, you see volunteer, click on there. You can put in your name and sign up for a day. It's just open in the morning. You can sign up. for when you want to work. Actually, on Wednesday, we need 5 people to scoop the food onto the trays so we can load it into the racks. So we still need 5 people next week on Wednesday. So if you go in there, you can always sign up.
There's very, very little work that is at least that's strenuous. The heaviest thing we'll have is a 40-pound box, and we'll get some people that can handle that kind of thing when we load the truck. When we fill a semi, it'll be 2,200 boxes. Each box has about 20 of these bags that we were passing around. And so it's, it's a serious endeavor. I have some people that think it's a little mom and pop thing in the back of the garage. We're a food processing company, and we're going to be regulated under the Michigan Department of Agriculture, and there's certain rules we got to follow. Cleanliness will be job one, to avoid any issues with that. And eventually, once we put it into the truck, then our relief agency partner, Feed the Hungry, out of South Bend, Indiana, will take that food along with the gospel of Jesus Christ to, like James said, it could be to churches, schools, orphanages, missions, refugee camps in the different countries. And I think they've got a list of about 26 countries that they distribute it to. They distribute about 500,000 meals per day. Their goal is to work up to 1 million. Unfortunately, this market is not going away. In fact, the demand for this kind of food is probably going to grow. Now, Betsy, maybe you can help me
The other video.
one more time to get through. We have one more, just very, very brief video.
So is the transportation, the freight, the cost of your partner, or do you pay the freight?
They cover it. Now, Jim and I sitting at our dining room table, I'm calling different agencies. Hungry answers the phone, and Julie listens to me. And at the end of the conversation,
That first screen.
and then
Maybe we
she says,
have that.
"Well, you should talk to our president. He lives in, where does he?
That's
live?"
it.
Don't want to do that. Okay.
So I called
Maybe
him,
if you
I
click on
invited
this
him to
part.
lunch, so he came to lunch, I showed him all the food from Niagara Christian Gleaners, we're in
Just
Lady.
minimize this here.
And they've been right by
Yeah,
our side
good idea.
since they want our food,
Okay.
they're right there. Of course, Barnabas Aid
You take.
wants our food. A lot of people want our food, but we're just starting out with one relief agency right now. And when the people
I can
receive
go
the
to
food,
that.
it's documented.
Probably a good idea.
Pictures are
Oh,
taken.
I'm dead
So we know that it's not going to end up
I've
somewhere
done
we don't want it to be.
Well, we showed this video.
I just told them about people hungry, how we got them over for lunch.
What are we missing here before we get to that last video? Are there any questions here? Maybe I should just say that first.
So how do people prepare the food when they get it? Obviously, I don't know what to do with dehydrated food, so.
Yeah.
Good.
They basically rehydrate it. Like, for example, I took the squash that we had and I boiled some water, put the squash in, it expands. And it's delicious, actually. Tastes like squash. In fact, I even made it dry. It tastes like candy.
Yeah, here.
But, it doesn't look like anything in that bag, but that bag would become so much bigger, when it's rehydrated, there's no glycation.
All right, here we go.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you.
Just thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Em.
Yep.
So this is, you were telling
I
me
told
something.
them that, so you should go ahead. Get it. Okay, once, yeah.
There we go.
Okay, fine.
Um,
And I just want to add
Go
one
ahead.
thing. Somebody mentioned, how do they use it? Some of the gleaners, and there are like 10 or 11 huge gleaners in Canada. We hardly know about it in the US. There's little Sus Manos gleaners in Grand Rapids. And there's one huge gleaner in California. They dehydrate their products in the sun. And then there's us. So we're hoping to spread this gleaner idea and this mission throughout our country, because every state could have many of these gleaners. And so about the food, some gleaners make it into a big soup mix, but not every culture eats soup. So Niagara Christian Gleaners, who we are following, they have all the bags individual, like squash, you name it, potatoes, apples. And so people can decide how they want to use it. Do they want to add it to rice? Do they want to add it to the potatoes we have? So we're going to leave it up to them.
our hope is very much to eventually, when this thing is, I joke about this, that when this thing is finally up and running like a well-oiled machine, 100%, that Jane and I are going to buy a Winnebago and drive around the country to spread the gleaners out.
Oh.
Seriously, I mean, I really do hope that if God lets me walk this earth this long, that we will do some version of that. But there could be 100 of these in the United States. And the building renovation was something. One businessman, my brother-in-law was a banker, or said to me, he said, "So let me get this straight. You're going to put $1 million or $2 million into a building you don't own?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Really?" I said, "He said, how long's your lease?" "It's like a 7-year lease." And I said, "You have to know our landlord. You know, they are very down to earth people. Obviously, they're people of means to buy this building. They endorse what we're doing so much that we're willing to do that." And I wish we could have seen all the remodeling and a lot of 60 and 70-year-olds that were working for 6 hours a day, 3 days a week, not 5 days a week. And it was past the Motrin time at the end of the day doing all this work. And now we've got retirees in there mostly doing the we've also we've signed up our first school. Kalamazoo Christian Schools is going to come in and fill one whole week during a kind of interim time for them. The visitor family, Weed Man Lawn Care, sent a group of 10 employees for 2 days in a row last week. And we've got Rose Street Advisors that's coming, I think, this week.
Next week.
And so the volunteer recruitment is a big part of this. So that's why we want to be doing that. We've got churches that have financially, thank you. That's a big part of it too. But I think actually, there's so many good causes. I mean, I was hearing about the Shepherd Center. Dennis has told me about it. I mean, what a worthy deal. But we also know that this community is filled with a lot of people with a lot of heart. And through all of this, the bottom line is we want to glorify Jesus Christ and spread his gospel. And we were recommended by the other gleaners that we tell our relief agency partners, and they already know about this, that when they deliver our food eventually, that they will provide documentation, photographic, video. We delivered X number of pounds to this city in Nicaragua to this many people, so we can show our supporters and our workers what's going on. Questions?
I was just wondering, when you mentioned apples, if you do anything with your packaging to help introduce other cultures to products that aren't native to them.
Well, I don't know about if we're trying to introduce them, but I can tell you there's a list of about 20 vegetables that the other people have heard, the other gleaners use. Ours will be probably the two biggest will be the biggest will be root vegetables, carrots and potatoes. They've got a longer storage life before we process. We do have about 2,400 square feet of storage space, refrigerated coolers that we'll be using. But it could be broccoli, cauliflower, peppers,
Onions.
onions, mushrooms, peppers, and other ones I'm forgetting. There's some there's some like tomatoes or strawberries. I'm disappointed with blueberries. We were told we could do blueberries, but they'd be a lot of work, because there's a lot of blueberries in Southwest Michigan.
How about Michigan freeze packaging?
We recently had one of our colleagues who used to work in the food industry in Battle Creek, connected us to a place called Michigan Freeze Pack up in Hart, Michigan. And they gave us 140,000 pounds of frozen vegetables. We weren't expecting that. Mostly what we'll do is fresh produce where we process it. As they showed up there, the washing, the trimming, the cutting, putting it on trays, putting it in the dehydrator. The dehydrator is a $250,000 machine. That's roughly the size of this room. It's about 11 feet wide, 33 feet by 11 foot tall, 6 foot wide by 33 feet. And we roll these carts in there. And then in 10 hours, we're done with it. We've actually got one. We have room for a second one. And theoretically, we could possibly have a third one. So that's when this thing really starts to snowball. But imagine, if you will, that at Niagara, we keep talking about, they're filling a semi once every 30 days with 2,200 boxes. And we know we can do that. I've got this, I've played a fair amount of sports in my life, and I've got this competitive thing about just keeping up with our Canadian friends. But other questions? We appreciate the opportunity to share. And we've shared a lot with Betsy and Dennis about this, and you may have other volunteering you do, and we certainly understand that. And if not, we welcome you. The website will tell you a lot more than I'm able to, and you can come out for a visit if you have groups that just wanted to come by and see the building sometime first. That would be possible too. Right. Unfortunately, we can't stay. We have our children in town visiting, so we're hoping to see them before they leave this afternoon. So
Thank you so much.
thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Like the dehydrated food someplace. So, what day is that? I'll go back.
You want me to stick around to help you with the technical challenge? We're gonna anyway. Spencer can probably handle it.
I don't know about that, but we can get him in here again.
I think she did that.
Did mine. Oh, okay, so maybe we can go right to,
Yeah, let's do the video first. Why not?
yeah, I think we don't need our picture.
Betsy, we're gonna do the video first, I think. It'll just be easier. You're
Well, we
there,
can.
here.
Tell me your name once.
Mary Beth, sorry. Yeah.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Well, God bless you too.
Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Not too much now. I want to hear about it. That sounds very good. Good.
Stay safe out there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Drive safely, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are. We're gonna do the video first. My name's Mary Beth Sarhat. I'm the Executive Director of the Shepherd Center. And we're gonna do the video first. We provide transportation to people 60 years old and up to health-related appointments within Kalamazoo County. So there's the teaser, and here's the video, and then I'll talk more. No video? Here's the shared screen thing, and I don't know where that went.
Okay. Rises a minute. Oh dear.
Okay, so plan B, I'm gonna talk while we find somebody who can help us, because, technology's not my gift, so hey. So let me tell you, first of all, I want to start with thank you. As Prince of Peace has become one of our most ardent supporters through financial means, but also we have a boatload of your congregation members helping us. Joyce Stout right here is our board chair. Lynn Wathen drives for us, and so is Mike Wathen. Dennis Stalker is a board member and a driver. We have Yvonne Gatz who drives for us. Chris Wagley is on our board. She's a new member here. Dick Hewitt has been a board member for us, and I have to say, your pastor rocks. Pastor Rachel is amazing. She refers people to us all the time, and we appreciate that because the more people we have we can help, the better. So one of the things that I was thinking about when I was preparing for today was when things get really hard in the world, I find myself sometimes being pulled into a not so happy place. And I have to remind myself that it's the everyday thing that we do, the things that we might think are small that are not for the people that we're trying to help.
There it is.
This. So, I'm gonna minimize video. Is this what you wanted? I can hit share screen and choose
Yeah.
media player share.
yeah.
And now you should get, if I go full screen on this, should be able to have a
That's great, thank you, Anna. I have more information over here on the chair. There's brochures, there's a little handout that we did recently with your friend and mine, Dennis Stalker, on it. And then we have cards too. These cards are for you to give to people you might know who need rides. But please feel free to take any of this. I also have volunteer applications. If at the end of my presentation you feel like you'd like to do that, just let me know. I brought those too. So let me tell you a little bit more in depth about what Shepherd Center does. And I want to go back to what I was saying before we started the video, is that sometimes for me, when things feel overwhelming, I feel overwhelmed and I don't know, like, what can I do? And for the Shepherd Center, the drivers know what to do, and it's getting people to their health-related appointments. So I'll share a bit of history, and then I want to tell some stories. Dennis has some stories he can share about the riders that he takes. All of you have stories you can share. All of our drivers, they tell me all the time, they meet the greatest people and they learn so much and they love it. Every single driver is like, whoa, so glad I do this. So we were started in 1989 through the Christian Reformed churches. Lots of congregations came on board to support the organization. So the people we help, they need to be over 60. They need to be independently mobile, whether that's with a walker or a cane, or they don't need any help. But because all of our drivers are volunteers, we don't help people with wheelchairs. It's just too hard to, for a lot of our drivers to get that wheelchair in the car. All of our drivers are over 60, so themselves. So, some of these wheelchairs are ginormous, even walkers these days. It's like, whoa, okay, this is heavy. So we help those folks and we take them all over Kalamazoo County. So our riders need to live in the county and then have their appointments in Kalamazoo County. We interpret health-related appointments very broadly. So it's medical doctors, it's dentists, eye doctors, counseling. We take people to counseling, physical therapy, dialysis, pretty much you name it, unless there is anesthesia involved where you're going to be under. We don't, Novocaine, that's a different story. But if you're going to be under, like for a colonoscopy, our drivers can't take on that liability. Because when the doctor's saying, well, you have to make sure they get in the house and they're safe, and that's not what we do. We get people to and from, but we don't care for them once we get home. Our service is door to door, which is different than some other services in the community. Door to door, our drivers will go to the rider's house, bring them, help them into the car, take them to their appointment. Often they will wait if the appointment isn't a long one, or sometimes they'll run some errands while the person is seeing their doctor and then come back and pick them up and take them directly home. We don't make multiple stops. We don't go to grocery stores. On the rare occasion that somebody has a prescription that's been, given to them, the driver will let me know that, or the rider might tell me, hey, I am going to have to pick up this prescription. And then I ask the driver, are you able to work that into your schedule? I am very clear that this is a volunteer gig for all of the drivers. And so when I interview new drivers, I ask them, when do you want to drive and how often? And then I basically salute. Okay, I got it. So if they say once a month on Wednesday mornings, that's what we schedule them for. If they say once a week, but only in the afternoons, that's how I work with scheduling riders and drivers, because it's their time. I want to respect that they're willing to give their time. They also are donating their car and the gasoline. We don't reimburse for mileage. They are just generous to give us all of that. And so, I can tell you that there's one man that Dennis has driven, actually. He lives in Augusta. And for somebody on the west side of Kalamazoo to pick that man, so the way our drivers do this is they start their mileage from when they leave their house, and then it ends when they get back to their house. So for drivers in West Kalamazoo to pick this man up and either take him into Kalamazoo, or sometimes he has Portage appointments, it's an 80-mile round trip. That's a lot of time and that's a lot of money. And so, we share that. A lot of different drivers who live in West Kalamazoo have taken this man to his appointments. He's a lovely man and he needs help getting to these appointments. So that's what we do. We do, as you heard in the video, we ask for a $10 contribution if the rider is able to make that contribution. If not, we take them for free or for a lesser amount. Our priority is getting them to their appointments, helping them take care of their health. And for some people, it actually allows them to stay in their homes longer because they have the support they need to do that. I think I'll let you share some rider stories, and then I can, or not, or Lynn can too. I wasn't sure if you would be here or not, so I didn't say, oh, Lynn, dial up for me.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure, yeah.
Do they have to be independent in registering when they arrive at the appointment?
What does that help me?
Like, present your insurance card or?
Oh, no, our drivers will go into the office with them often. In fact, I have a lady who said to me, she's just the dearest. She said, Mary Beth, the doctor's appointment is on the 3rd floor, and will the driver go with me in the elevator? Because I'm really nervous about elevators.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, they can do that. That's not a big deal. I mean, I didn't say that to her. It's not a big deal. It's a big deal to her. But for the drivers, just I tell them that. So that's one thing I do when I register people for our service, because we do get people registered. We take all the information we need. I ask questions like any hearing issues, any vision issues. I have also talked to adult children who are registering their parents, and I will say, are there any confusion issues? Is there any early stage dementia? And have had a conversation with a daughter who said at the end of the conversation, we both agreed that her parents couldn't handle our service because the dementia was too advanced. They couldn't keep straight who was going to, they just needed more help than we could give them. So no, our drivers are
Communication, speech impairments, you could help.
We could totally do all that. Yeah. I mean, it's always good for me to know, because I think Dennis and Lynn will both tell you, I tell the drivers everything I try to tell them everything they need to know to help the person. In fact, I'm real clear with the rider. I say, so what else do I need to know to help you the best? Because nobody needs to be embarrassed in the car. Nobody needs, we all want to do the very best we can for people.
And then another quick question
Sure.
related to the people before you.
Mhm.
Is this a individual model, or is there a nationwide network of these places? Or?
There's a national headquarters. They've changed their name from Shepherd Center of America to Aging Forward, but it is a national organization. We're the only one in Michigan. There are some in the South. There are some that kind of vary all over. I don't think they're in 50 states, but in many states. And a lot of those are bigger than we are. They do all kinds of things. This Shepherd Center used to do like education for adults. We used to take people to other kinds of appointments, not just health related. So they had a Handy Hands program where people would go help with small repairs. But after COVID, so pre-COVID, they had 110 drivers. After COVID, and when we could start functioning again, they started back with 12. Now we have 44. I counted them the other day. 44. So there is a national organization that can be helpful. They have resources that we use. Yes.
I have some friends who do taxes during tax season for free for seniors. So they asked, could we provide transportation to someone who needs to have their taxes done? And I didn't say, I said, I'm going to ask Mary Beth.
That's a hard.
I know it's hard because it's not health related, but on the other hand, it's really, really important. So if we can't, then do you know any other organization that might be able to?
So there are other things that I've said no to, and I wouldn't feel terrific about saying yes to something that I've already told other people no. So it's going to be a no. I totally agree that it's important and valid. I just don't know if we can do it. And let me think about if I can think of somebody else who might. They might want to check with the Portage Senior Center.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have a van, the Portage Senior Center has a van, and they do transportation for some things, but not, I don't know their whole scope. So, but that would be, I think, they would, because they're a senior center, I think they would just, well, that makes sense.
Why couldn't they take Metro Van?
I'm sorry?
Why can't they take Metro Van?
Well, I wasn't part of the conversation, but the person that they were talking to said that it's not necessarily an individual situation with Metro Van, that
yes, I can explain that. Yes.
Pick up like 3 people and drop them different places, and so
that's why people use us, because when they're trying to get to a health related appointment or any appointment where they have to be there at a certain time, I think Metro Connect is awesome. But if you have to be there at a certain time, sometimes that isn't possible because they are picking up 2 or 3 people. And then so our riders, some of them don't have the cognitive ability, some of them the patience or the physical ability to wait in a doctor's office for 2 hours while Metro Connect picks up other people and then takes them home. So again, I think Metro Connect is great if you can use it, but that's why probably they're not using Metro Connect and then Metro Connect it's $4.50 each way, I think, or $4.50 each way. So they're cheaper than we are. But again, it's not door to door. You're going various places until you get to your destination. We've taken people to dialysis appointments. We've taken people to chemo treatments. In fact, Joe was the man with the driver with the man. And Joe and a friend of his named Bob would take a man to chemo. They'd take him to a doctor's, one of them on Mondays would take him to a doctor's appointment and the other took him to chemo or another kind of treatment on a different day. And they actually started taking him out to lunch and they did build a friendship. And when this man, the rider, was in the hospital for the last time, Joe and Bob went to visit the family. They couldn't see the rider, but they could go and visit with the family. And that does happen. Friendships happen, or even just the moments in the car. For some of our riders, it's the only outside person they're going to talk to that day other than their appointment. And we've had drivers have told me there was a woman who used us and she would call the office too. So I've spoken with her. The driver said to me, Mary Beth, she got in the car and she did not stop talking from the time she was in the car until I brought her home. And it's because she was lonely. I'm not being critical of her. She's lonely. She needed people in her life, and our drivers provide that. Our drivers are people who haven't heard the riders' stories 100 times like their kids have. And so we can be,
At least at first.
We can be like, wow, like the woman that came from Latvia, right? This woman has incredible stories.
Yes.
Did you take her too?
Yeah, she's just a hoot.
She's 90. She's 90 something.
Yeah. I'll probably get some of the facts wrong, but she's born and raised in Latvia. And then towards the end of World War II, when Russians were coming in, they went to Australia.
Mhm.
Her parents took her to Australia. Then I don't remember the reason for coming back to the U.S., but I heard all these different stories about where she lived, and then I don't remember if it was her or somebody else, person without a name. I rarely put the radio on when I'm driving, but this person had asked,
It was her. You told me that.
Yes,
It was her.
and so then we started chatting about, well, what kind of music do you like? So I put the 60s and 70s music on.
But
She loved it. So did you ever see this person live? They started comparing notes. Which artist have you seen in person? Well, I saw this guy.
I just love that.
and I just get a thrill out of it. So it's and then there's Dick.
Yeah.
And so he and I have a true friendship beyond the driving. So I just took him just the
Yeah,
other
that's
day,
great, right? Yeah.
and so yeah,
They're loaning each other books and talking.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's people who, all of our riders have given in their lives, right? Like they've all had productive lives, and now they can't drive, and so don't they get to be cared for? I mean, that's where I always come, like I can still drive, both of them, Dale and Joe, the drivers on the video. Both of them said, it's what I can do. It's the least I can do. It's, Joe said, it's a blessing. I hear that from drivers all the time. I'm so blessed that I still can drive and that I can help this person do this. Or, I've had riders call and say, oh my gosh, Mary Beth, every person you send me is so kind. I had a woman last week say, you're angels. they're all angels. And I'm like, well, let her believe that. You go, girl.
Do
They
the
are.
drivers collect the money?
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, so it can be a check or cash, and then we will write a receipt for the rider, because sometimes riders, I think sometimes if they live in an, what's it, an income, I never remember the right word.
Low income.
Yeah, low income, assisted kind of thing, but they need to show that for their taxes or something. So yeah, we do. And then the drivers get me the money. They either mail it to me or they drop it by the office. I do want to give you some numbers because I like data. It helps me sometimes, like, oh, okay, I got it. So in 2024, our drivers drove 19,928 miles. They drove 1,639 hours, and they gave 1,497 rides. And then we have volunteers in the office who gave about 634 hours of their time. There are two paid volunteers, right? Paid staff, myself, and then there's an assistant director. I work 20 hours a week. She works 12 hours a week. So we are looking actively for funding, like any small nonprofit. We have been really lucky to get funds from the senior millage grant that's happened. As I said, your congregation has been very generous to us. And then we are, there are some other churches that support us. We write grant proposals. The assistant director is fantastic in so many ways, but one of them is she digs into these grants and she writes. So we're just very fortunate. And then, as I alluded to earlier, we're always looking for volunteers to drive. And again, you get to choose when, where. I mean, you can tell me, Mary Beth, I don't want to go. Like, if you're in Portage, I'm never going to have you go to Augusta. That's just not a thing, unless something crazy happens, like a driver drops out at the very last minute because they're sick, and that happens. And I have people who are on my list of call me if you need me, if something happens. So very generous people, big-hearted, as they were saying at the last presentation. Lots of big-hearted people in our community. Can you two think of anything I've missed, or because I don't want to keep us past?
I don't know if you missed it, but you didn't. We have more callers
Oh, thank you.
needing rides than we do drivers.
Mhm.
And this time of the year is especially challenging because people go south. So, but just that gap in being able to provide for all the people that need these rides.
Even though we have 44 drivers, we're doing about 21 rides a week. And that's because I have people who leave for 6 months. I have people who say I'll drive one time a month. When I first took this job, how hard can it be? You're scheduling. I mean, it's, I'm an organized person. I can do this. Oh, Mary Beth. What I didn't know. So it's like putting puzzle pieces together, like Dennis is in West Kalamazoo. But sometimes I do have Dennis drive to Portage because I don't have a Portage driver that's available at, the same time and whatever. So we're turning down people because we get full. Like right now, there are days in February that are completely full. That it's like that's where we are. So I hate doing that.
I'm sorry, why do the volunteers have to be 60?
But they don't actually.
Oh, I thought you said all the drivers.
They are, but they are.
Oh, okay. It's like you kind of.
No, if you know a 25-year-old that wants to drive, rock on. Send that to me.
Okay.
No, it's just that's how it ends up.
It trends that, yeah.
Yeah, because people are retired and they have the time to do it. But we don't do evenings. We don't do weekends. We just do Monday through Friday. But yeah, we take, and then when I check into volunteers, when you apply, there's an application. It asks for 2 references. I always call those references. We do background checks, so felonies, sex offenses, that kind of thing. We check the driving record because I want to be able to say to the people in our car, the riders, I can't do anything about the traffic, but I can make sure that the person in the car with you that's driving you is safe and doesn't have things that shouldn't be doing. Is that my time? It's time to go to church, ladies.
We're flexible.
Yeah.
You
Drivers have to have a chauffeur's license and
Nope.
does all the insurance.
No, they just,
Good choice.
so you just show me proof of insurance and your driver's license. That's what I keep on file. Every year we update that. And then
Is
you're
there a certain
using,
level of insurance that's required or?
nope,
Oh,
no, but I'm clear with every driver though, that we've never had an accident. Never.
Oh, yeah.
But if there was an accident, then, and the rider wanted to sue, we're a litigious society, then they would go after the drivers, they'd go to the driver's insurance first, and then the Shepherd Center carries extra insurance so that if the driver's insurance doesn't cover whatever, like the $1 million medical whatever, then they would come to us for the rest of it. But nobody has said to me that their insurance agent said, what? Like your insurance is gonna go up. That isn't a thing. They're not supposed to do that. I know it with other folks, other organizations, Shepherd Centers, sometimes the agent will say that, but they're not supposed to say that. So you just have to be a kind person, kind, caring.
Could you, I know we see these numbers monthly
Mhm.
board, but how many riders typically in a month, how many turn down in a month? Meaning, if we had more volunteers driving, how many more people could we serve?
So, I'm doing it in my head. So, I'm gonna say we do about 28, 30 different riders in a month. Well, not different, like maybe 28 different. Sometimes people do, like I have people who have a weekly appointment. Every Tuesday, we take that same person. So sometimes, it's not like it's 30 different people. It's 30 ride, it's whatever. I can't do the math in my head right now. I would say we just started tracking how many we turned down for whatever reason. Sometimes it's because we can't serve them, they're in a wheelchair, but I would say at least 8 to 10, then that's really conservative a month that we can't help, at least. Because we're always, every week, it's probably more like 20. Because every week we're saying, no, we're full. We tell people, like if you have an appointment on February 5th and you get an appointment for July 8th, I want you to call me February 6th and tell me and get on our schedule because we're filling right. We're doing the entire year of 2025 right now. We're scheduling. I have people in September who, they have an annual appointment. So last September they called and said, yo, it's September 10th. And so they're on our list. And that's part of the fun of it is keeping all those balls in the air. So we're gonna get it. We do it paper and pen right now. We schedule that way, but we are starting. In fact, this month we're going to start using a ride scheduling system on the computer that won't impact you at all yet. It's going to be a very slow rollout.
so do you, then do you initiate the call to that rider that this is still on the books? Or are they supposed to call you, or does the driver have to call the rider to make sure they still have that same appointment?
We generally don't call the rider. Let's say somebody's scheduled for later this month. So once the driver is scheduled, they call the day or two before the appointment to say, hey, it's Mary Beth from the Shepherd Center. I understand I'm picking you up at 1:00 on Tuesday or 1:00 tomorrow for your 1:30 appointment. I drive a little black car. All of our drivers wear identification with the Shepherd Center logo and the name tag. So that's one of our checks is the driver will call. If we had to call, it would be a nightmare from the office. It would really be difficult, but the driver can do that. And we really try to make it clear to riders, canceling at the last minute is not great because that means somebody who could have gotten a ride didn't. I mean, with sickness, we understand sickness. We understand the death in the family, but just because you don't want to go, yeah, don't you? So anyway, I want to get you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And please, if you know people who need our services, please take information for them. We are always recruiting drivers, and so my expectation, that is one of my solid big goals this year, is to get more drivers. So the more drivers we have, obviously, the more people we can take. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dismissed?
Here's end.